After the incredible performance that was against Santa Clara, the Wildcat season comes to a close in meltdown fashion against Iowa State.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe. On today's episode of the show, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 82-63 loss to Iowa State in the round of 32 of the NCAA tournament. The Wildcat season has come to a close in, quite frankly, embarrassing fashion, and the game felt like a microcosm of how Kentucky's second season under Mark Pope has gone. We're going to talk about the game, some of the frustrations in this one, how Kentucky looked like they were going to be competing in this one for a large majority of the first half, the meltdown, some of the different problems within and without this game, and look ahead to the future, because there is a lot. And I mean a lot of things that Mark Pope has to do here over the next month and a half or so to get this team competitive for next season. And if he fails to do so, he won't be in Lexington much longer. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. And if you're watching on YouTube, I would love it if you subscribe to the show. And if you're listening on podcasts, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. I do want to thank everyone here off the top who has kind of taken this journey here with us here at Locked On Kentucky. This has been an emotional roller coaster of a season. This has been an up and down, chaotic, overall very negative season. It feels like, just because of the injuries, the pacing of it, some really confusing moments from Pope, from this team. Obviously, they had that big run there in the middle of the season where they won 8 of 9, and then they fall down the stretch, just collapse. They win 2 games in the SEC tournament, shouldn't have been in that position in the first place, and then they lose to Florida again in a really poor shooting effort. They beat Santa Clara in one of the best games I've seen in my life. Otega Owei has his best performance as a Wildcat, and then after one solid half, honestly, I would say one solid 15 minutes of game time against Iowa State, the Wildcats crumble. They crumble. And again, like I mentioned, this contest felt like a bit of a microcosm of what we've been experiencing as fans emotionally, and frankly, what the team has been experiencing this entire season, where it starts off well, like you have these hopes, these aspirations, and then it all is kind of taken away from you there. And yes, I understand that Kentucky had some great games where they found ways to come back. They rallied. You could argue that Kentucky should consistently not be in those spots. I think I would agree with you, but nevertheless, they found ways to win. This was an interesting team for sure, especially considering the fact that they didn't have a point guard for the large portion of this year. Literally did not have a point guard healthy on the roster, able to play. And the bench, whenever Kentucky did get thin towards the end of the year, was virtually unplayable. And then you got to see maybe some bright spots, some from Cam Williams, some Mohamed Diabate bright spots here late. But still overall, just a very underwhelming season for Kentucky and Mark Pope in his second year. It kind of completely erases, in my mind, the honeymoon that was in year one. Obviously, you have to give him some grace for the amount of injuries that Pope has had to deal with. You also have to begin to question, what is this strength and conditioning staff doing with some of these kids at the same time? Whenever you have a dislocated shoulder over and over and over again, you have something like Jaden Quaintance, where why did you make the decision to even bring him onto this team when he provided nothing for you? He gave you one win over St. John's, and really how much of an impact was that at the end of the day? Just some bad decisions, I think, in terms of roster construction from Pope and this staff. There just weren't enough shooters, weren't enough ball handlers, weren't enough playmakers on this team. I do want to give credit to Otega. We will do that later in the show. I want to give him his flowers and thank him for coming back this season, because he didn't have to. He did not have to return this season. He could have gone to the NBA draft and he could have found hay there as a professional ball player, but he didn't. He stuck around, and I do appreciate him for that. But this team was just, this iteration of Kentucky will be generally forgotten, in my opinion, just kind of forgotten as just another squad outside of save a couple of insane buzzer beaters, right? Which I think people will look back on and forget that they happened this year. I think you'll think about that Malachi Marino shot against LSU, where Kentucky comes back to win it at the end. I think you'll obviously think about Owei's performance against Santa Clara. That is etched into March Madness lore forever and Kentucky's history books as well. So you'll think about those two things, but you won't really remember anything else from this season other than, and the average person watching college basketball will think, oh yeah, that team, they spent $22 million on their roster, and they were disappointing relative to expectations. They were a bad team relative to expectations. And honestly, Iowa State, I mean, credit to them. This is a phenomenal team. The Cyclones are really, really, really good. And they played today without Joshua Jefferson. They're All-American, and they still found a way to grind out the first half, to hold serve, and then to absolutely blow Kentucky out of the water in the second, scoring 51 points in the second period. Just an embarrassing meltdown from Kentucky, and this is what we've said all season. This has been a consistently mentally weak team, where if you punch them hard enough, they will stay down. They get rattled really easily. Yes, I know they had moments where they rallied, but overall, you look against teams that are good, against competent, elite competition that Kentucky wants to find themselves competing against consistently, winning against consistently. Florida, Gonzaga, freaking Louisville, I think you could throw into this group just because of how big of a rival they are. Yes, I know what happened in the NCAA tournament, but still, I think they fall in that category as well. Against teams like this, an Iowa State caliber, a top 10 caliber team, Kentucky gets down and they sort of fall apart. They just embarrass themselves. It's a lack of physicality. It's a lack of depth because of the injuries. It's a lack of maturity. It's a lack of playmaking. It's a lack of a lot of things. So again, like I mentioned, and we'll get into it a little bit more, there's a lot of things that Pope's going to have to do to change what he had going on this season, because I think he overcorrected. Yes, Kentucky's defense last season wasn't up to snuff. This season, a little bit better, but again, like you can't stray away from your identity to that extent. And I think that he's got to find some sort of middle ground, some happy agreement between, we're going to have a high octane, fly up and down the floor 3-point shooting team, and we're going to be a little bit more defensive minded, try and be more athletic. I'll just go ahead and tell you, this team was supposed to be more athletic. They were supposed to be more physical. They were supposed to be faster. And they were none of those things relative to last year's team. I would take last year's squad over this year's squad in 8 of 10 games that they play. This was just an embarrassment on that front for the University of Kentucky. This is not what we expect out of our program. This is not the standard. The type of personnel that Kentucky had on their team this season, you root for them, you cheer for them, you want them to succeed. But at the end of the day, these kids are being compensated for their performance at the University of Kentucky, and they will be justly criticized. There's been a lot of conversation online about some things to do with Malachi Marino and his family. I don't condone that. I think that is embarrassing. I think that's pathetic to do as a human being. At the end of the day, these are kids. This is a college sport. At the same time, if you're going to be paid millions of dollars, there is a level of criticism that comes with that. There is a standard. And I think the players know that. I think the players would agree with that. But it doesn't shake the fact that they still deserve the criticism for a lot of bad things that happened this year. I mean, just some dumbfounding mistakes by this team throughout the course of this season. And then it kind of culminates again, talk about that word, microcosm of the season in the second half against Iowa State, where we'll get to the officiating. We'll get to some of that in a second. But this was Kentucky's game to lose after the way that they played in the first half, and they completely fell apart. They didn't have anything else in the tank. They didn't have anything else in the tank. Mental mistakes compounded by the fact that Iowa State just has one of the best defenses in the nation, incredible ball pressure, incredible effort, incredible performance from that team today. But I also will mention, I will throw this out there, and I want to be clear because it is incredible to me. It is absolutely incredible to me how you can make your stance abundantly clear on how a game played out. You can make a comment about officiating, and there will be a host of people online that somehow find a way to completely remove from their brain the fact that they just heard you say officiating's not the reason why Kentucky lost this game. And they will immediately go to cry more, shut up about officiating. It's not why you lost. Why are you talking about officiating? It's not why, like saying like you can't blame officiating for the reason why you lost. And they completely ignore somehow in a beautiful way the first statement that comes out of my mouth, your mouth, anybody else's mouth that says officiating is not the reason why Kentucky lost this game. It does not excuse it from the fact that it was poor. Heaven forbid we have some nuanced takes here on the internet. Heaven forbid we see both sides of something. It's got to be black and white. It's got to be one or the other. It's tribalistic. It's melted down into this smooth-brained argument where you can't say both things. Kentucky lost this game because of the mental mistakes that they had. They were the less talented team. They were poorly coached relative to Otzelberger, who I think is phenomenal. The officiating in this game was poor. It was poor. Iowa State, similar to Oklahoma City, is allowed to basically get away with a variety of things that should be called fouls. And the reason that they're able to get away with it, and this has been talked about at length online actually, is because of their attention to the amount of effort that they give. Because of the, not facade, but I guess something like that of we have so much energy and we're playing with so much intensity that's kind of what is the focus from the officiating crew, from the crowd. The moment kind of captures what this defense is able to get away with. And so they were able to play an uber physical style of basketball. They were able to put their hands on Kentucky. They were able to They were able to swat the ball on drives. Otherwise should have been called as fouls. And I don't care, because this is not the reason why Kentucky lost the game. I will note Kip Kissinger, the lead official, has never had an Iowa State game. He's never officiated an Iowa State game that the Cyclones have lost. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. That's something that a lot of people are running with. I don't care about that. What I care about at the end of the day is from an officiating crew being consistent, calling the game by the book both ways. Palming should be called more. It was called in this game. Carrying should be called more. Illegal screens should be called more. Push-offs on rebounds should be called more. Travels should be called more. Personal fouls should be called more on drives to the basket where the defender pushes you out of the way or hand checks you. That should be a foul. And it consistently wasn't on the Cyclones today, but I do want to give them credit for their effort, for their defensive intensity, for their talent. This is a very good team that I hope, hats off to them, I hope they make a run. I hope they go deep. Nothing against the Cyclones, but some poor officiating today just sort of compounded on top of the mental mistakes and, frankly, the lack of talent Kentucky had relative to Iowa State, which were the real reasons why Kentucky won this game. So I'm going to leave it there. You can say what you want about officiating in the comments below. I'm just here to tell you, Kentucky should have played better. They should have been more disciplined, and they should have a better, more talented team at this point. But they don't. I want to continue to break this one down, thank Otega Owei, talk a little bit more about what's going to need to happen in the offseason. Before we do all that, though, I do want to tell you guys about our friends over at Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. And when the pressure is on and you need the right hire, it's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. So skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed. According to Indeed data worldwide, that's a lot. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, it's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Today's episode is also brought to you by CoastPay. CoastPay is giving Locked On College listeners up to $2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. So if you manage a crew, construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation with trucks on the road, really, you already know how messy gas and materials spending can get. Cards get shared, receipts disappear, and month-end turns into a headache. CoastPay fixes all of that for you. They are the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets, fuel, maintenance, materials, all in one card with real control and instant visibility. Every transaction shows up the moment it happens. There's no surprises. So if someone fuels up at an odd time or tries to buy something outside of their limit, you'll know instantly. It's built for operators who don't have time to chase paperwork. And unlike old fuel cards, there are no contracts or commitments, just smarter expense control. Right now, CoastPay is offering our listeners up to $2,000 in credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. Go to coastpay.com/lockedoncollege to see how you can earn up to $2,000 in credit. Terms apply. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. All right, continuing along here on today's episode of the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Subscribe if you have not already. Very long first segment there, but I feel like it's important to talk about how this game went. 82-63 is the final score. I've not necessarily taken a dive into any of the stats here, but I will note 20 turnovers for the Kentucky Wildcats, most in a tourney game since 2000, is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it for UK. That's not the standard. The standard is excellence. And even if you don't make a Final Four title run every single year, you shouldn't be this sloppy, ever, in a tournament game. And you may say, Iowa State, one of the best teams in the country at turning opponents over. We get that. We understand that. The mistakes that Kentucky made in this game, for the most part, were careless and sloppy, and they were on the Cats. When they were down and the momentum was shifting, they floundered, they panicked, and they looked pathetic. And I do want to criticize Mark Pope here for a second, because there was a moment in this game where Kentucky was up 20-9, 20-8, actually, it might have been. And Kentucky doesn't have their foot on the throat of the Cyclones yet, but they've just knocked them to the floor. Kentucky's moving the ball. They're running sets. They're hitting open shots. They look good. Iowa State can't buy a three, struggling big time to shoot, and Kentucky's really doing a great job of playing good defense in the half court. In comes Jasper Johnson. And Kentucky's lead immediately disappears. Now, it wasn't all on Johnson, who did turn the ball over in the stretch, got caught on a bad switch that ended up leading to a bucket, and then also chucked up a three less than 5 seconds into the shot clock. So 2 empty possessions and a basket that was his fault. It wasn't all on him. But fascinating development. In the 1.5 minutes that he played in the first half, in -9. How does that happen? How does that happen? How does that even begin to happen? -9 in the first half in 1.5 minutes of play. We'll call it 2 for fun. How do you look at that and say, let's put him back out there? How do you look at that and say, leave him for the final 30 seconds or so? At some point, you've got 3 timeouts. You decided at the end of the first half to not take a timeout when you could have run a set and gotten a better look. Instead, it leads to a turnover and a 3 at the end of the first half for Iowa State. Some dumbfounding coaching decisions this entire season. And I'll go ahead and tell you this. If Jasper is not about 15 pounds stronger next season and can handle the freaking ball, doesn't need to be in Lexington. Because he, this season, has been bad. I'm sure he's a great kid. I'm sure he's got a great family. I'm sure Pope loves him. I'm sure the fan base likes him because he's from Kentucky. I like him because he's from Kentucky. He was great in high school. Year 1 was pathetic. And either some major development needs to happen or he doesn't need to be here. The stats reflect it. The eye test reflects it. Everything shows you that Jasper Johnson is a net negative in an awful way. And we've got to change that. We've got to change that. I'll put my mic down now so that I'm not going to lean too much into it for you guys. But I will say the rotations in this game I thought were bad, especially whenever Kentucky built a lead. And you can sit there and say, well, Kentucky was never going to win this game. You don't know that. Keep your mouth shut if that's what you're saying. You don't know. I don't know. We don't know. So let's not speculate that they were definitely going to lose this game heading in. But Jasper's was something that you can't necessarily speculate over that is at this point inarguable. Jasper was bad. He was bad in this game, and he's been bad all season. Diabate today, I couldn't give Kentucky the muscle that they needed. Garrison was bad in his 22 minutes. Yes, he had some boards, but a couple of really bad turnovers. When Kentucky didn't need them, I mean, what can you do? I mean, you got a couple of really good BG games, and this was, I mean, it is what it is. But I do want to give credit. I mean, statistically speaking, shooting-wise, Kentucky didn't do anything bad in this game. They shot 36% from three. They hit 9 threes. They shot 47% on the day. I mean, they didn't get out-rebounded in a bad way. The problem was the turnovers. That was the problem. Kentucky could not hold on to the basketball, but offensively, when they were able to hold on to it, I thought they were fine. Part of that has to do with some garbage time stuff there, the stats there, but still, I was not upset with most of the shot selection. Just couldn't hold on to the basketball. I do want to give credit to one of the more impressive players I've seen come through this program in the half decade that I've been doing the show and for the time that I've been a Kentucky fan. Otega Owei is special. And I think a lot of people will look back on his 2 years here with a lot of love and respect for what he did for this program. He was clutch. He was athletic. He finished at the rim in just a beautiful way. The body control, the acrobatics, the strength. Otega, for his role on this squad for 2 years, I thought was a beautiful addition to this team. And you got to give Mark Pope credit for that he went out and got him. Because Otega is a ball player. He's a good player. He might not be the best shooter. He might not be the best ball handler, but he's a great slasher and was a great addition to this team. I'm going to miss him really, really bad next season. You want somebody like Otega on every single iteration of your squad. Every single team. The stats here. 1,237 points before his performance today. I believe Otega had 18 on 8 of 15 shooting in this game. So 1,237 points heading into this. 34.5% from three, 47.6% from the floor. He also had 333 rebounds and 158 assists, 119 steals. So many of those breakaway dunks. Just a special player at that guard wing spot. And he played his heart out against Santa Clara, played his ever-loving heart out. And I thought he fought today. Would have been nice to see him get a few more calls, which he just simply couldn't get. Neither could Aberdeen. It's okay. The game is over. We move on. But what a special player. What a special season. Thank you, Otega Owei, for your contribution to Kentucky basketball. You will never be forgotten. And after that shot against Santa Clara, I mean, everyone's going to be talking about you forever. And we will miss you. Best of luck in the NBA. Best of luck on your future endeavors. You'll always be a Cat. You'll always be welcome. Hate to see somebody like this go. You hate it. I also want to give credit to Denzel Aberdeen. He was not supposed to be a point guard this season. He wasn't. If anything, he was supposed to be a backup option, a tertiary option, a third option at point. Because frankly, Jasper was supposed to be a lot better than this, and he wasn't. But Lowe goes down, and it's clear Aberdeen has to play point. Kentucky doesn't have anything else. And his style of play, the shots that he wants to get to, I think that, yeah, at times he was a bit of a black hole. At the same time, though, how can you blame him? He's never been a lead point guard to facilitate an offense consistently in his life. Yeah, he had moments at Florida, and yeah, he had some moments this season, but that's not what he was supposed to be, and he had to be down the stretch, and he was. He was passing the ball well. Now today, 1 assist to 4 turnovers. Would have liked to see him get some calls, but again, that didn't happen. It's okay, we move on. But I want to give him credit for what he had to do for this team and the way that he stepped up and the way that he changed. The way that he changed basically every other possession, where he has to think about the game a little bit differently. He has to approach it a little bit differently for the Cats because of their limitations, their shortcomings. And he did that. I thought that he was a good addition to this team. I thought that Aberdeen was a good addition to this team. And in this game, he shot well. I believe he knocked down 4 triples. He had like 20 points. Offensively, I thought that when he wasn't coughing the ball up, I thought he played well. So thank you to Aberdeen for stepping in after winning a title at Florida. Obviously, nowhere near the aspirations that he had for this team or anyone had for this team. But somebody that I will look back on and say, yeah, that kid was smooth at times. Obviously, not the best in the world, but somebody that I thought elevated this Kentucky team at times and had to change, had to be something different for this program. And I think stepped into that role, embraced it, and played well down the stretch. Outside of that, Kentucky's got some things that they have to change. They've got some decisions coming up over these next couple of months. And I'm scared. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm afraid for Pope and the staff because I don't know if they're going to be able to make the right decisions. Let's talk about the future of this program for a little bit. Talk about where this team is headed. Before we do it, though, I do want to tell you guys about our friends over at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Well, now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long and use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets change the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. You're no longer just a spectator. It's play-by-play, and you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Today's episode is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy and the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. There's been 18 different flavors to choose from, and I like Confetti Craze here. That's been my pick on the board for quite some time now, and I'm not going to be moved off of it. Yes, grape I think is appealing to me. Yes, you could go with something like cotton candy or fruity rainbow, but I'm big on the Confetti Craze flavor because it's vanilla-y. Love vanilla, love that cakey flavor. And the cool thing about 5 Hour Energy flavor shots is that they give you that caffeinated kick, that punch that you need with 0 sugar. And they've got a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned as well. Love grape, love Confetti Craze, love all the flavors I've tried with 5 Hour Energy, and you can find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Wrapping up today's episode of the show, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have not subscribed already, would love it if you did so. It's been a season. It has been a season. And I tweeted this out, and I'll reiterate it here. There is a long list of things that Mark Pope needs to do this offseason, starting tomorrow, Monday, March 23rd, to completely change and improve this team. And failing to do so will cost him his job. A lot of changes have to be made. Obviously, we're going to get into who should stay, who should go, who is graduating and we need to replace, who we're going to get in the transfer portal, who we're going to get in the high school ranks, because it looks like Kentucky's only going after one guy, and if they don't get him, they've got a lot of changes to be made. And if they try and run this back wholesale, minus the players that are graduating slash JQ who's declaring for the draft, I don't know if Pope will be in Lexington for another year. And let me be clear, I'm not rooting against him. Let me be very clear about that, Kentucky fans, myself included. I'm not rooting against Mark Pope. I want Pope to succeed. Former captain of a national championship squad, loves this program, clearly loves this program, loves this fan base, loves this place. It's clear his heart is in it. His heart is in this. He wants to be here. He wants to win. He's got to start doing the things to make that a reality. And that comes off the court, starting with your personnel that you have this season. This offseason is huge. This is the most important, most crucial offseason that Kentucky has had in the history of me doing the show. Entering season 6, it's the most important. Can you get it right? Can you get the right players in to make this team elite next season? It's clear Kentucky has the money, but does JMI have the ability to pull it out of their wallet clearly and concisely and get the kids that Kentucky wants? Christian Collins is going to USC. That should never happen. Should never happen. You should never lose a recruit like that. Tyron Stokes might be going to Kansas. That should never happen. That should never happen when you're crystal balled to land him and everything is saying that you should get him. You need to get talent. You need talent. And there's going to be a contingent of people that come to this episode and a contingent of people on that are saying, oh, what are you talking about, Kentucky fans? Oh, John Calipari left. You got tired of saying we're tired of one and done freshmen. We need some kids that stay. Now you're saying you want talent. Again, heaven forbid a podcaster online have a nuanced take. Heaven forbid anybody have a take that sees both sides of something. And a lot of you would agree. I think a lot of you would agree with what I'm about to say. It's a blend. It's a blend. To use some Pope's word salad. It's a beautiful blend. It's a beautiful blend of talent. Players that are going to go to the NBA either in 1 or 2 years. Veterans who might not be the most talented but are experienced and can bring you some stable floor, like stabilizing stuff night in and night out. It's athleticism. It's players that can rip the rim off or guard anybody 1 through 5 like their life depends on it. It's shooting. It's players that can shoot the ever-loving lights out of the ball. It's playmaking. It's ball handling. It's a mix. It's a mix. What if you've been watching this show, if you've been watching my show for the 5 seasons that I've been doing it, you could probably remember, and I'll say it here again. Do you remember when UConn's won those 2 titles? What have I continued to say? If Kentucky's going to want to win a national championship, they're going to want to do it with the way that kind of UConn did, where they have a blend of everything. They've got youth, they've got experience, they've got NBA talent, they've got kids that are going to be car salesmen, but fit. They're tall, they're athletic, they're everything. They're a beautiful blend of everything. That's what those rosters were, and that's kind of what that roster was for Florida last year. And whoever wins the title again this year, Arizona, Duke, what have you, it's going to be a blend of that. That's what it's going to be. And so you have to find that middle ground. If you're Kentucky, you have to find that middle ground. I don't think Pope's an idiot. I think he's smart. I think some of the sets that he runs are incredible. I think they're brilliant. But he's got to be able to look at the mirror really hard and say, okay, I run a certain style that wins, 3-point shooting, pace, and stuff. How can I get the most out of that while also doing the things that a national champion does? They have consistent guard play. They have bigs they win the rebounding battle. That's the big thing. Can Kentucky win rebounding? Huge. Would be huge for them next season if they're just dominant on the glass and they shoot well. And protect the rim, rebound, shoot well. Like, obviously we're kind of hitting all the points here, but still, you need that. You need a well-rounded, well-balanced elite team. You need to be elite next season. And speaking of elite, I mean, you got to make a deep tournament run. You have to do that. There are so many expectations for this there's a lot on the line right now. There's a lot on the line. And it starts tomorrow. It starts when you wake up tomorrow, March 23rd. How am I going to make this team better? How am I going to change this? Who needs to stay? Who needs to go? A lot of decisions. Again, we will get into on the show who I think should stay and go. We'll get into that. But for now, it's an ending. It's an ending to a season. And we'll never forget the Santa Clara game. But outside of that, like, thank you, Otega, Owei. Thank you for your service. We move. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDawe_. And you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And God bless.